So if you're listening to this, chances are you've probably tried to get your financial life sorted out maybe, what, 3 times now?
At least. And maybe failed every time. And now you just feel like you're drowning.
Drowning in information, yeah. Conflicting advice everywhere.
Drowning in data, drowning in hot takes, drowning in a million contradictory gurus. I mean, the real enemy in modern personal finance isn't really a lack of information, is it? It's the sheer paralysis.
Right.
The complexity, the information overload. It just stops people cold. You have 1,000 voices yelling 1,000 different things.
And the result?
Almost always the same. Most people just do nothing. They default to inaction. It's easier.
Exactly. And the sources we're diving into today, this sort of custom-tailored stack of modern financial thinking, they really try to cut through all that noise, and they do it with one central idea, basically, the power of action over perfection. So this deep dive is really for anyone who wants a reliable, sustainable, long-term financial system, but doesn't want to become some kind of full-time financial tracking robot.
Right. You don't need another hobby. Our mission today is pretty clear. We want to help you understand how to build a passive wealth-generating machine.
Passive is the key word.
Totally. The core philosophy we've pulled from all this material is that getting rich, it isn't really about picking the next hot stock or, tracking every single penny in a spreadsheet.
Okay, so what is it about then?
It's about being well-informed enough, just enough to set up a totally automated financial infrastructure.
And the value here, the thing that makes this whole approach kind of stick, is just how useful it is. We're going to show you how to set up this automatic flow for your money.
Yeah, the sources put it kind of bluntly, don't they?
They really do. They say, basically, even if you were to suddenly vanish or get eaten alive by a Komodo dragon.
Yeah, the Komodo dragon.
Your money system would just keep going. It keeps transferring funds, paying bills, growing your wealth, all by default. That's the level of automation we're talking about.
And that's the goal, right? Make money management this set it and forget it thing, a background process so you can actually get on with, living your life.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with the foundation. And maybe surprisingly, it's not math. It's not spreadsheets.
No, it's pure behavioral psychology, which sounds complicated, but it's really about how you think about money.
Because you can know the absolute perfect investment strategy, the lowest fee fund, whatever. But if your internal wiring is, messed up,
you will self-sabotage. It's almost inevitable. And the worst part is you often won't even realize you're doing it.
Right, which is why these sources, they lean so heavily on this psychological shift first.
Yeah, they use this great comparison, the money-food analogy. Think about nutrition for a sec.
Okay.
We all basically know the simple, kind of boring truth, right? Eat a bit less, move a bit more, vegetables are good.
Simple, but maybe not easy.
Not easy and not sexy. So what does the media obsess over? Keto, Whole30, the latest weird superfood powder from the Amazon?
Right, the minutia, the complicated stuff.
Exactly. They debate the tiny details, and we do the exact same thing with money.
How so?
Well, instead of taking the simple high-impact actions like automatically putting money in your 401k, opening a basic index fund, we get totally bogged down.
We obsess over
what?
Geopolitics.
Yeah. Or which meme stock is going to the moon this week, or arguing endlessly about whether the Fed's going to raise rates by a 0.25% next meeting, stuff you can't control.
And the consequence of obsessing over all that detail, whether it's carbs or crypto.
It's the same result as just ignoring money completely. You get nowhere, zero results. The goal here isn't to become some kind of elite financial athlete who tracks every market tick or every calorie. It's just mastering the, say, 99% of what you actually need to know, automating it, and then moving on with life.
Okay, but what's stopping us? If the basics are simple, why don't we just do them?
That's where it gets interesting. It's often these deep-seated, unconscious beliefs. The sources call them invisible money scripts.
Invisible money scripts. Okay, what are those?
They're basically the financial rules, the warnings, the attitudes, the messages we soaked up, often without realizing it, from parents, from society, from friends.
And then drive our behavior.
Totally. Without us even questioning them, they operate in the background, silently.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, maybe you heard your parents say over and over, credit cards are a total scam. So you avoid them like the plague, thinking you're being smart, protecting yourself.
Yeah, makes sense.
But wait, by avoiding credit entirely, you might actually damage your credit score over time, which then makes it harder or more expensive to get a mortgage later on.
Oh, so avoiding the scam actually ends up costing you money kind of justifying the original script in a twisted way.
Exactly. Or they show up as these really judgmental statements people make. You're just throwing your money away on rent.
Heard that one a few times.
Right. And that pressure, often based purely on that inherited script, pushes people into buying houses maybe before they're ready or when they can't really afford it.
Or maybe the script was simpler, like, we just don't talk about money in this house.
Oh, that's a big one. Leads to huge financial secrets, misunderstandings, massive confusion in relationships down the road. It cripples open communication.
And you see this really clearly when it comes to debt, right?
Painfully clearly. People spend enormous amounts of mental energy just seeking psychological reassurance instead of actually taking action.
Like comparing themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least I don't have as much student debt as Michelle does. It makes them feel slightly better, but achieves nothing.
Or they just give up.
That's the other side. Total surrender. These credit card companies are predators. They just try to trap you. And that feeling of being trapped, that surrender, it's a huge barrier.
Because it removes personal responsibility.
Precisely. If it's all someone else's fault, why bother trying to fix it? Action feels pointless.
And this feeds right into what the materials call excuse culture. Is that fair?
I think it is. We get paralyzed first by the info glut. The paradox of choice.
Too much information.
Way too much. There are, 50,000 articles on how to invest? So we convince ourselves, oh, I need to read all of them before I can possibly start, which means you never start.
And the media kind of fuels this, right? With those endless lists.
Oh, definitely. They publish these sensational but ultimately non-actionable headlines. 10 no-hassle frugality tips. Great for page views.
But does it change anything?
Rarely. Because they don't involve fundamental shifts like setting up automation. So you read the list, you feel kind of informed for a minute.
And then you do nothing.
Exactly. Nothing changes.
And this can lead to this kind of cynical mindset, like competing to be the bigger victim.
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic. Instead of focusing on what you can control, how much you earn, how much you spend, how you invest, the focus shifts entirely outwards.
Blaming external forces.
Right. Blaming baby boomers or the government's policies or the economy. Basically anything but your own choices and actions.
Sources had a specific example for this, didn't they? About a savings challenge.
Yes, the Save $1,000 in 30 Days challenge. And the reaction from the cynics wasn't, wow, that sounds really hard, but maybe I could try saving $500.
Well, it was.
It was immediate pushback. I can't even save $20 a month. This is totally impossible. It's unfair.
They missed the point.
Completely missed the aspirational goal. The challenge is designed to force you to look at everything controllable. Can you find a side hustle? Can you negotiate a better insurance rate? Can you finally cut that cable package you never watch?
But instead, they just found the excuse.
Found the excuse to avoid taking any action at all. It confirmed their victim script.
So how do we break through this mental wall of needing perfection, of making excuses?
We embrace what the sources call the 85% solution.
The 85% solution.
This is like the absolute core concept of this whole philosophy. Forget getting it 100% perfect. Forget spending weeks trying to find the absolute rock bottom lowest cost index fund on the entire planet or chasing the highest savings account interest rate that's going to change next week anyway.
So what do you do?
You just start. Getting started today, right now, with a system that's maybe only 85% correct, opening the accounts, automating the transfers, that is infinitely, infinitely better than waiting 6 months to find the mythical 100% perfect solution.
Because that waiting often turns into
doing nothing. 0% action.
The moment you set up that auto transfer, let's say, into an investment account.
You've basically captured 85% of the potential benefit right there. That money is now working for you. It's compounding instead of just sitting in your checking account while you read 5 more finance books.
So the goal isn't to become a financial wizard living in a spreadsheet.
Not at all. The goal is to build a simple, high-performing system that lets your money serve your life, get it automated, then get back to living.
Okay, so the mindset shifted. We're focused on action, not perfection. Now we get tactical. The sources lay out the systematic path, kind of like a ladder of personal finance.
Yep, step by step. And the first few rungs are all about setting up the foundation, dealing with credit cards, and getting your banking right.
And the approach here is offense, not defense.
Immediately on offense. Look, a lot of people operate from fear, especially around credit cards. Maybe they got into debt before, or they're scared of high interest rates.
Now they avoid them.
They avoid them entirely. But that's playing defense, and honestly, it can actively hurt your long-term wealth.
Oh.
Because credit cards are the fastest, most concrete way to build and optimize your credit score. And a good credit score saves you a ton of money over your lifetime on big things like mortgages and car loans.
Right, that makes sense. And beyond just building credit, there's the protection aspect too?
Huge. Absolutely crucial. If some company tries to hit you with a bogus $160 cancellation fee, you don't waste hours arguing with their terrible customer service.
What do you do?
You just dispute the charge with your credit card company. Click, click, done. That layer of consumer protection is incredibly valuable, and people often forget it's there.
Okay, let's get into the credit score itself. You said simple actions have big results here.
Massive results from simple habits. The single most important factor in your FICO score, it accounts for like 35% of the whole calculation, is just your on-time payment history.
Just paying your bills on time.
That's it. It's not sexy, it's not complicated, but it's incredibly effective. This is where the 85% solution is key again. Just automate the payment. Set it up to pay the statement balance in full every single month automatically.
So you become what the credit card companies call a deadbeat.
Exactly. You want to be a deadbeat customer. Use the card for the perks, the points, the protection, but never pay them a single cent in interest. Normalize that.
But what if you slip up? Life happens, right? You miss a payment, get hit with a late fee.
Then you negotiate. This is crucial. The materials really stress this. You should never just accept a fee at face value. Don't just pay it.
You call them up.
You call them up.
Yeah.
And the sources provide a really effective script framework. The key is how you end the request. You need to end with strength.
So could you maybe possibly remove this fee for me, please?
Definitely not that. You say something like, "Hi, I've been a loyal customer for X years. I see there's a late fee here. I'd like to have this fee removed."
Framing it as an expectation, not a question.
Exactly. You're making a request, firmly. If the first person says no, be polite, but ask to escalate or just restate your case. Remind them of your loyalty. Mention it's a rare occurrence.
Does it work?
Way more often than people think, especially for occasional late fees, sometimes even interest charges if you have a good history. They'd rather keep a good customer than make $35 on a fee.
Okay. And then for people who do want to get more detailed, there's the whole rewards game.
Oh yeah, maximizing rewards can become kind of a fun optimization puzzle if you're into that. The materials mention Chris Hutchins, who apparently took this to an extreme level.
Right, the story about squeezing points.
It's pretty wild. He found that the big comparison websites, the ones that are heavily advertised, often don't list the absolute best deals because they're compensated listings.
So he dug deeper.
He dug way deeper. The anecdote was that he was so fanatical about optimizing points that he'd book a hotel room with 2 beds, and then meticulously switch the used towels and maybe even muss up the second bed.
Why?
To try and argue for waiving the housekeeping service fee, which in turn could squeeze out an extra 500 reward points or something tiny.
Okay, that's intense.
It's definitely next level. But it illustrates the point. There's often a lot more value available if you're willing to play offense and look beyond the obvious rewards.
All right, let's switch gears to banking, because this is where the big banks often set that nickel and dime trap you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. Traditional big banks often thrive on fees. We all remember the scandals, right? Wells Fargo opening millions of fake accounts.
Yeah, great.
Or Bank of America slapping a $12 monthly fee on basic checking unless you kept a hefty minimum balance for people just starting out or with lower balances. One single $35 overdraft fee can literally wipe out years of any interest they might have earned.
And the stress that causes.
The financial anxiety is immense. It keeps people scared of their own bank account.
So what's the recommended defense strategy here? The sources talk about a basic option plus small optimization approach.
Yeah, the idea is to separate your main money functions into 2 types of caps, often at 2 different places.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, you want a totally free checking account, ideally at a local bank or credit union if you need easy branch access for cash deposits or whatever. This is your operational hub. No fees is the absolute priority.
And the second account?
Second, You link that checking account to a high-yield online savings account. These usually offer much better interest rates than the big brick-and-mortar banks.
And the separation is important.
It's key, partly for psychological reasons. By putting your savings, your emergency fund, your down payment fund in a separate digital bucket, you're just less likely to dip into it impulsively. Out of sight, out of mind, kinda. Plus, you earn more interest automatically.
And we need to watch out for the marketing tricks banks use to get us in the door. There were 5 main ones.
Yeah, 5 shiny tricks. First, teaser rates. You see a huge 6% interest rate advertised.
But it only lasts for
2 months, maybe 3. Then it plummets to almost nothing. Don't fall for the short-term gimmick. Look for the stable, long-term rate.
Okay, what's number 2?
Required minimum balances. Watch out for accounts that penalize you with fees if your balance drops below, say, $1,500. Find accounts with no minimums.
Third.
Avoid the expensive upsells. Banks love pushing these value-added checking accounts that cost $10 or $15 a month.
For what? Free checks?
Yeah, stuff like free checks you never use or maybe bonus interest on a mortgage product you don't even have with them. Usually worthless add-ons. Stick to the basic free option.
Number 4 was about chasing rates.
Right. Don't waste your time switching banks every few months just to chase an extra 0.02% interest. It's irrational. The rates fluctuate constantly, and your time is worth more than that tiny difference. Find a consistently good high-yield account and stick with it.
And the 5th point.
It kind of ties in this: recognize how much time you waste worrying about tiny optimizations like that or dealing with complex fee structures. The goal is long-term stability and rock-bottom fees, ideally 0 fees. Forget the short-term interest gimmicks. Set up the simple, free accounts and move on.
Okay, we've stabilized the foundation. Good credit habits forming, low-fee banking setup. Now we move to the big lever for long-term wealth: investing.
And the first big realization here is crucial. Just saving money isn't enough.
Explain that. Why isn't saving enough?
Well, if you put $100 a month into a savings account, even a pretty good high-yield one, inflation is still eating away at its purchasing power over time. Your real return is tiny, maybe even negative some years.
So saving protects capital but doesn't really grow it.
Exactly. Investing, on the other hand, is about putting your money to work, harnessing the power of compounding. You know, they credit Einstein with calling compounding
Mankind's greatest invention. Or the 8th wonder of the world, something like that.
Something like that. And the point is, you're not really getting rich until your money starts making more money all by itself through that compounding engine.
But as soon as we talk investing, people hit that wall.
Right.
The intimidation factor, the myth of needing financial expertise.
Oh, it's huge. Everyone assumes you need to become some kind of stock-picking genius, like you have to outsmart Wall Street professionals and predict the future.
And the data shows.
The data absolutely demolishes this idea. It shows that perceived expertise is often just an illusion. Take the famous Bordeaux wine tasting study.
The wine study, how does that relate?
Well, they got these supposed expert wine connoisseurs together, highly trained palates, right? And they gave them 2 glasses of wine to evaluate.
Okay.
One glass had white wine. The other glass had the exact same white wine, but they tinted it red with food coloring.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. The experts confidently described the red wine using classic red wine terms: intense, spicy, bold. And they described the actual white wine using white wine terms: light, crisp, floral.
They couldn't tell us the same wine.
Not at all. Their brains were fooled by the color, yet their confidence in their detailed descriptions was absolute. It's a powerful example of how perceived expertise can be completely disconnected from reality. And we pay dearly for that illusion in finance.
Wow. Okay. That's a fascinating analogy. But surely professional fund managers are better than wine snobs, right? Is the financial data really that bad?
It's honestly staggering, utterly damning for active management. Consider this data from Putnam Investments, they cite.
Okay, what did Putnam find?
They looked at the S&P 500 over a 15-year period. If you were invested the whole time, you got a decent return, maybe 7.7% annualized. But if you just happened to miss the 10 best trading days during that entire 15-year period.
Just 10 days out of 1,000.
Just 10 days. Your annualized return plummeted from 7.7% down to just 2.96%.
That's a massive drop.
It gets worse. If you missed the 30 best days, you actually had negative returns over 15 years.
Wow. And the point is?
The point is, nobody can reliably predict which 10 days those will be. Not the pundits on TV, not your brother-in-law, not the most expensive hedge fund manager, nobody. So trying to time the market jumping in and out is basically a guaranteed strategy for failing. You just have to be invested consistently through the ups and downs.
That really drives home the set it and forget it idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so if most active managers can't reliably beat the market, why do so many financial funds seem to claim they do? How do they make their performance look good?
Well, they use some statistical trickery, essentially. The main culprit is something called survivorship bias.
Survivorship bias, what's that?
When a big financial firm reports its overall performance numbers, they often conveniently leave out the funds that did poorly and got shut down. They literally bury the evidence of their failures.
So they only show you the results of the funds that survive.
Exactly. Which makes the average performance of the remaining funds look much better than the reality of the whole group, failures included. It obscures a massive failure rate in active management. Very. And similarly, you know those 5-star ratings you see from companies like Morningstar?
Yeah, people rely on those.
The sources are clear. Those backward-looking ratings do not reliably predict future success. A 5-star fund is just as likely to underperform going forward as a 3-star fund.
Okay, this is all painting a pretty bleak picture for active management. And then there's the issue of fees. You mentioned even a nominal 1% fee sounds small.
Sounds harmless, right? Like what's 1%? But the math here is deeply counterintuitive and absolutely brutal over the long term because of how it interacts with compounding.
How does it work?
See, when they take that 1% fee each year, they aren't just taking 1% of the money you initially put in, they're taking 1% of your gains too. They're taking 1% of the money that would have compounded for you for decades more.
So the effect grows over time.
Massively. Over a typical investing lifetime, that nominal 1% annual fee can actually reduce your total potential investment returns by something like 28%.
28% gone, just from a 1% fee.
Gone. And if you're paying a 2% fee, which some advisors or complex funds charge, you could lose a mind-boggling 63% of your potential gains over your lifetime, just evaporated into fees.
63%, that's literally retirement destroying.
It absolutely is, which is why you must be ruthless about minimizing investment fees. You should be aiming for ultra-low fees, ideally in the 0.1% to 0.3% range for your core holdings.
And this ties into understanding who you're getting advice from, right? The fiduciary distinction.
Critically important. You need to know if the person advising you is a fiduciary or not. A fiduciary is legally obligated to act in your best financial interests, period.
And someone who isn't a fiduciary.
They might just be a salesperson operating under a weaker suitability standard. They only have to sell you a product that's deemed suitable for you, even if there's a much cheaper, objectively better product available that maybe doesn't pay them as high a commission.
So paying a non-fiduciary advisor could cost you dearly in hitting fees or suboptimal investments.
It can be one of the most expensive financial mistakes people make without even realizing it.
Okay, so if the experts are often illusory, market timing is a fool's errand, and fees are absolutely crushing. What is the simple, proven solution?
The simple solution, the one recommended by Nobel Prize winners in economics and legendary investors like Warren Buffett, is embracing the index fund advantage.
Index funds. Explain those simply.
Index funds are incredibly simple. They don't try to beat the market. They just aim to match the performance of a broad market index, like the S&P 500 or a total stock market index.
How do they do that?
They just buy all, or a representative sample, of the stocks in that index in the same proportions, because there's no expensive team of analysts trying to pick winners, no constant trading.
The fees are super low.
Exactly, ultra low fees. You basically stop trying to find the needle in the haystack and just buy the whole haystack. You own a tiny piece of the entire economy.
And for the ultimate 85% solution, for people who want to be completely hands-off, the sources point to target date funds.
Target date funds are brilliant for their simplicity. They are the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it's investment.
How do they work?
You just pick a fund based on the year you roughly plan to retire, say the Target Date 2050 fund.
Okay.
And that single fund automatically manages your entire investment mix for you over time. When you're young, far from 2050, it keeps you heavily invested in stocks for higher growth potential.
More aggressive.
Right. But as you get closer and closer to that 2050 target date, the fund automatically gradually shifts your money towards safer, more stable investments like bonds.
So it de-risks your portfolio as you approach retirement.
Precisely. Without you ever needing to log in, make trades, or even think about rebalancing, it does it all for you within that one single fund. It's the perfect 85%, maybe even 90% solution for most people's retirement savings.
Okay, this gives us the final piece for that ladder of investing you mentioned.
Right.
The key priorities, the order you should tackle things in.
Exactly. Let's run through that order. Priority 1, max out your employer 401k match.
Free money.
The definition of free money. If your company matches, say, dollar for dollar, up to 5% of your salary, you absolutely must contribute that 5% to get the full match. It's an immediate, guaranteed 100% return on that matched portion. You cannot afford to leave that on the table.
Okay, match first. Priority 2.
Pay off high-interest debt. We're talking credit cards, personal loans, anything with an interest rate significantly above, say, 5% or 6% APR.
Why before investing more?
Because paying off debt with an 18% interest rate gives you a guaranteed risk-free 18% return. The stock market's average return is maybe 8–10%, and it's not guaranteed. Mathematically, killing high-interest debt wins.
Makes sense. Priority 3.
Fund your Roth IRA. This is a really powerful retirement account. You contribute money after you've paid taxes on it.
So post-tax dollars go in.
Right. But then the money grows completely tax-free. And the best part, when you take qualified withdrawals in retirement, all that growth comes out tax-free as well. It's an amazing long-term deal, especially if you expect to be in a higher tax bracket later in life.
Got it. Roth IRA. Priority 4.
Now you go back and max out your 401k contribution limits if you can, beyond the match. This means funneling as much pre-tax money as possible into your 401k.
Why is that good?
2 reasons. 1, it lowers your taxable income today, saving you money on taxes right now. 2, that money grows tax-deferred, meaning you don't pay taxes on the gains until you withdraw it in retirement. More fuel for compounding.
Okay, max 401k. And finally, priority 5.
Consider a health savings account, HSA, if you're eligible. This is a bit more niche because you usually need to be enrolled in a high-deductible health insurance plan to qualify.
But if you are eligible...
The HSA is like the ultimate investment vehicle. It offers a unique triple tax advantage.
Triple tax advantage. How?
Okay, check this out. 1, your contributions go in tax-deductible, lowering your current income tax, just like a traditional 401k. 2, the money grows completely tax-free inside the account. And 3, if you withdraw the money for qualified medical expenses now or decades later in retirement, those withdrawals are also completely tax-free.
Wow. Deductible in, grows tax-free, out tax-free for medical. That's amazing.
It's incredible. It essentially acts like a supercharged retirement account that you can also tap penalty-free for healthcare costs along the way. If you're eligible, funding an HSA is often a top priority after getting the 401k match.
All right, the investing machine is designed, the automation is ready to go. Now we shift focus. Less about pure defense, just cutting costs, and more towards playing offense.
Yeah.
Proactive spending and boosting earnings.
And the first casualty in this shift is traditional budgeting. We have to ditch that restrictive, guilt-ridden concept.
Why do traditional budgets fail so often?
Because they're fundamentally about restriction. You can't spend money on this, you have to cut back on that. It feels like deprivation.
And people rebel against that.
Exactly. It's unsustainable psychologically. The replacement, according to these sources, is the conscious spending plan.
Conscious spending plan. How is that different?
It flips the script. Instead of tracking every penny after the fact and feeling guilty, you consciously decide in advance where your money is going to go. You prioritize.
But you allocate money first to the important stuff.
Right. You make sure your investments are automated, your savings goals are funded, your fixed costs are covered. And then, crucially, the rest of the money is yours to spend completely guilt-free.
Guilt-free. That's the key difference.
Yeah.
You're not feeling bad about buying a coffee or going out to dinner because the important stuff is already taken care of by the system.
Precisely. The system runs itself. The sources suggest using 4 main buckets, just as a starting point, kind of a diagnostic tool to see where your money's currently going.
Okay. What are the 4 buckets and the rough percentages?
Bucket 1 is fixed costs. This is your rent or mortgage, debt payments, utilities, insurance, the essentials. Ideally, this should be around 50–60% of your take-home pay.
And if it's higher than 60%?
That's a red flag. It probably means your housing costs are too high for your income, or you have a significant debt problem that needs immediate, aggressive attention. That's a big win area to tackle.
Okay. Bucket 2.
Investments. Your 401k, Roth IRA contributions. Aim for at least 10% here. If you automate 10% right from the start, you're pretty much guaranteed to build significant wealth over time.
Bucket 3.
Savings goals. This is for shorter-term stuff. Building your emergency fund, saving for a house down payment, a new car, a big vacation. Maybe allocate 5–10% here. It's separate from long-term retirement investing.
And bucket 4, the fun one.
Guilt-free spending money. This is for dining out, clothes, hobbies, travel, whatever you enjoy. Typically, this might be 20–35% of your take-home pay. And the emphasis is absolutely on guilt-free.
Because this bucket is what saves you from that. What did the sources call it? The guilt prison of frugality.
Yeah, exactly. We've all seen those personal finance articles, right? The ones that critique every tiny expense. They take your $4 daily latte
Calculate the lost investment gains over 40 years.
and declare that your latte habit is actually costing you $90,000 in retirement. It's mathematically true, but psychologically damaging.
But it makes you feel guilty about everything.
Yes. It creates this paralyzing guilt. You end up maybe hoarding money, but you sacrifice joy, experiences, spontaneity. The sources even mention people who hit their financial independence number.
And they're not happy.
They look back with deep regret. They realize they sacrificed their entire 20s or 30s, skipped weddings, missed trips, all for a number on a spreadsheet that didn't magically bring them happiness when they finally hit it.
So conscious spending allows for extravagance, but strategically.
Strategic, guilt-free extravagance on the things you genuinely value. The material tells the story of a friend who consciously budgeted something like $21,000 a year just for going out bars, restaurants, socializing.
Wow, $21,000 on going out. How?
Because he was absolutely merciless about cutting costs on things he didn't care about. Maybe he lived in a smaller, cheaper apartment than he could afford, drove an old beat-up car, didn't buy fancy clothes.
So he made a conscious trade-off.
Exactly. He prioritized ruthlessly. He decided what brought him joy socializing and cut everything else to the bone to fund it guilt-free. That's conscious spending. It's about aligning your spending with your values, not just blanket restriction.
Okay, so you optimize your spending, focus on those big wins, housing, transportation, negotiating bills, rather than obsessing over lattes. But eventually you hit a limit, right? You can only cut costs so much.
Absolutely. There's a hard floor to cutting expenses. That's when you need to pivot hard towards playing offense, towards increasing your earnings.
Because earnings are super linear. What does that mean?
It means there's a finite limit to cost cutting, but theoretically, no upper limit to how much you can earn. Someone making $50,000 a year and someone making $500,000 a year might buy the same $5 loaf of bread.
But the difference in earning power gives the higher earner massive leverage.
Infinite leverage, essentially. Getting even a 10% raise can often be the single biggest financial win you achieve in an entire year, dwarfing any savings from cutting coupons.
And the sources say the absolute best time to negotiate salary is
When you're starting a new job, that's when you have maximum leverage, before you're embedded in the company culture. But negotiating in your current role is also crucial. Preparation is everything.
you have to build a case.
Build a briefcase of evidence, as the sources call it. Start documenting your achievements 3, maybe even 6 months before your performance review.
And not just listing your tasks.
No, absolutely not. Not, I answered emails or I attended meetings. You need tangible evidence of how your specific work directly benefited the company's bottom line or strategic goals.
Quantify it if possible.
Definitely. I implemented a new process that saved the company $6,000. Or I brought in a new client worth Y amount. Or I improved system efficiency by Z%. From everything in terms of the concrete value you provided to them?
And very importantly, the negotiation is never about your personal needs.
Never. Your boss, frankly, doesn't care that your rent went up or you want a new car. The negotiation has to be focused entirely on your value to the company and why you deserve to be compensated appropriately for that value based on market rates.
There was a specific tactical tip about how to ask, too. Avoid yes-no questions.
Yes, that's a great negotiation tactic in general. If they offer you, say, $50,000, don't just ask, can you make it $55,000?
Why not?
Because it makes it too easy for them to just say, no, flat rejection, end of conversation.
So instead, you ask.
You use a more open-ended, collaborative question, something like, okay, $50,000 is a good starting point to work from. What would it take for us to get to $55,000? Or how can we bridge the gap to $55,000?
So it forces them to engage with the possibility of getting to your number rather than just shutting it down.
Exactly. It opens a discussion about performance metrics, future responsibilities, timelines. It keeps the negotiation alive and makes it harder for them to give a simple no. It reframes it as problem-solving together.
Okay, this last segment tackles the really big stuff. The major life decisions, the emotional minefields, the things that often happen outside the neat little rows and columns of a spreadsheet. And we start with a big one. Financial independence.
FI. Yeah, the core idea behind the whole FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, it's mathematically quite simple at its heart. It revolves around hitting the crossover point.
The crossover point. Define that again.
That's the point where your accumulated investments generate enough passive income through dividends, interest, capital gains to cover your annual living expenses indefinitely. Meaning, theoretically, you no longer need to work for money, your money works for you.
And how do people typically calculate that crossover point number?
Usually using the 4% rule, or sometimes called the 4% safe withdrawal rate. The basic idea is you aim to save up 25 times your desired annual spending.
25 times spending.
Okay. Once you hit that number, say you spend $40,000 a year, you'd aim for $1 million. The theory is you can then withdraw 4% of that portfolio, $40,000 in the first year, adjust that amount for inflation each subsequent year, and have a very high probability of never running out of money.
The sources mentioned different flavors of FIRE, right? Like lean FIRE versus fat FIRE.
Yeah, it's a spectrum. Lean FIRE usually involves extreme frugality, aggressively cutting spending down to maybe $30,000 or $50,000 a year to reach that 25x number much faster, often retiring very early but living simply.
And fat FIRE.
Fat FIRE is the other end, aiming for a much larger nest egg to fund a more extravagant lifestyle in retirement. The materials use the extreme example of Oprah.
Right, Oprah's finances.
Conservatively estimating her assets might generate something like $160 million in passive income per year. So for her, buying an $8 million house is essentially free. It doesn't even dent her annual investment earnings. That's fat FIRE on a massive scale.
And the math showing how dramatically you can speed things up is powerful.
It really is. If a household saves a typical 10% of their income, it might take them, say, 38 years to reach financial independence using the 4% rule.
Okay, standard path.
If that same household manages to both increase their income by 30%, maybe through negotiation or side hustles, and simultaneously cut their spending by 30% through conscious choices,
Then what happens?
they can slash that timeline dramatically. They might reach the crossover point in as little as 9 years instead of 38. It shows the incredible power of attacking both sides of the equation, earning more and spending less.
Yes. There's a big but here, isn't there? A caution sign the sources wave.
A huge caution sign, the emotional risk. Many people pursuing FIRE, especially lean FIRE, fall into that trap of living in the spreadsheet.
Obsessed with the numbers.
Totally obsessed, cracking their net worth daily, optimizing every tiny expense, believing that hitting that magic 25x number will suddenly unlock eternal happiness and solve all their life problems.
And the reality.
The reality, as reported by many who achieve it, is often emptiness or even profound anxiety. What now? They hit the number, quit their job, and find they're bored, purposeless, or maybe even regretful.
Regretful why?
They regret sacrificing so many experiences, travel, relationships, hobbies, personal growth during their prime earning years, all in service of reaching that number faster. They optimized the money, but forgot to optimize the life along the way.
So the key is balance. Finding that middle ground between saving aggressively and actually using some of that guilt-free spending money you planned for.
Exactly. Don't sacrifice your entire present for an uncertain future utopia that might not materialize in the way you expect.
Okay, let's shift to another big, often emotional topic. Debt strategy, especially student loans. They feel like a necessary evil for many.
Necessary evil is a good way to put it. While student loan debt can feel incredibly burdensome, the statistics consistently show that, on average, college graduates significantly out-earn those without a degree over their lifetimes. So often, it is a good financial decision, even with the debt.
But the question then becomes, how aggressively should you pay it off versus investing?
It really boils it down to one main technical factor and one huge psychological factor. The technical factor is the interest rate on the loan.
Compared to potential investment returns.
Right. If your student loan is at, say, 4% APR, and the long-term average return of the stock market is maybe 8% or higher, technically the math says you're better off paying only the minimum on the loan and investing the extra cash. Your investment returns should, over time, outweigh the loan interest cost.
Okay, that's the math. But the psychological factor.
The psychological factor is often way more important for people. If having that student debt hanging over your head causes you constant stress, anxiety, keeps you awake at night,
Then just pay it off.
then just pay it off aggressively, even if the interest rate is relatively low. Forget the strict math. The peace of mind, the mental freedom you gain from eliminating that debt burden is often worth far more than the few extra percentage points you might have earned by investing instead.
And even small extra payments can make a difference.
A big difference. The example given was paying just an extra $100 per month on a typical $30,000 student loan. That small change could save you over $3,500 in total interest paid and knock almost 3 years off the loan term. That's a tangible, controllable win.
Okay, moving on to cars. This is an area where people make some legendarily bad emotional financial decisions.
Oh, absolutely. Cars are status symbols, emotional purchases. But financially, you must think about the total cost of ownership, TCO.
Not just the sticker price.
Not even close. TCO includes the purchase price, yes, but also insurance, gas, maintenance, and budget for that maybe 1-3% of the car's value per year, registration fees, and the biggest killer, depreciation.
New cars lose value fast.
Incredibly fast, sometimes 20% or more just in the first year after you drive it off the lot. That's thousands of dollars vanishing instantly.
And in the number one rule the sources hammer home about cars.
Do not lease. Just don't. Leasing is almost always structured to maximize the profit for the dealer and the manufacturer, not save you money. There are rare exceptions for business write-offs, maybe, but for personal use, owning is better.
So the best financial move is usually
Buy a reliable car, maybe 1 or 2 years old, to avoid the steepest depreciation hit. Pay cash if you can or get a low-interest loan, and then drive that car for at least 7, maybe 10 years or more. That's how you truly minimize transportation costs.
And when you do buy, negotiation is key. There was that ruthless Indian negotiating style mentioned.
Yeah, it's basically a high-volume, competitive negotiation strategy. You don't just walk onto one car lot.
What do you do instead?
You decide exactly the make, model, trim, and options you want beforehand. Then you contact as many dealerships as you can within, say, a 100-mile radius, maybe 15 or 17 of them, primarily via email or phone.
On Tele.
You tell them precisely what you want and ask for their absolute best out-the-door price. You make it clear you're contacting multiple dealers and will buy from whoever gives you the lowest verified price.
You create a bidding war.
Exactly. You pit them against each other. Often you can get written quotes that are below the dealer's invoice cost, what they supposedly paid for the car, because they're focused on volume bonuses or just desperate for a sale.
And you never go to the dealership
Until you have that final, agreed-upon, out-the-door price confirmed in writing via email. Then you go in, sign the papers for that exact price, and leave. It avoids all the high-pressure sales tactics, the finance office upsells, the hours of haggling. Saves you thousands and immense frustration.
Okay, finally, the biggest purchase of all, for most people, buying a house. This one is loaded with emotion and those invisible scripts we talked about.
Absolutely loaded. Renting is throwing money away. A house is the best investment you can make. These are deeply ingrained beliefs.
And the controversial truth? The source is present?
The controversial truth is that for many individual homeowners, a primary residence is often the most overrated investment they'll ever make. It's a lifestyle purchase first, and a financial investment a distant second.
Why overrated? People see prices go up.
They see the sale price go up, but they conveniently forget all the costs they poured into it along the way.
Yeah.
We focus on the mortgage payment, but we ignore the massive hidden costs.
Like what?
Property taxes, homeowners insurance, ongoing maintenance, that 1-3% rule again, plus huge lumpy expenses like needing a new roof, $10K, $20K, a new HVAC system, $5K, $15K, replacing appliances. It adds up incredibly fast.
The source has had a calculation for this.
Yeah, pretty sobering one. A hypothetical $220,000 house bought with a standard 30-year mortgage. By the time you account for the mortgage interest paid over 30 years, plus estimated property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and major repairs, the total cost of owning that $220K house could easily exceed $778,000.
Wow, over $750,000.
And that doesn't even account for the opportunity cost of the down payment and all those ongoing costs, money that could have been invested elsewhere.
So renting isn't necessarily throwing money away.
Not at all. Renting often provides flexibility and frees up significant cash flow each month compared to owning, once you factor in all those hidden costs. If, and this is the big if, you systematically invest that difference.
The money saved by renting.
Right. If you invest that difference consistently in low-cost index funds, you can frequently end up with a higher net worth than someone who bought a house, especially when you factor in the high transaction costs of buying and selling real estate, realtor commissions, closing costs, etc.
You need to stay put a long time just to break even on those costs.
Typically, yeah. You often need to live in a house for at least 7 to 10 years just to neutralize the initial buying and eventual selling costs before you even start talking about actual appreciation as profit.
Okay, one last major area.
Yeah.
Money and relationships. This is where those emotional scripts can really cause fireworks.
Definitely the highest potential for conflict. When you're talking to a partner about money, especially early on, the approach is absolutely everything.
How should you approach it?
The sources stress starting broad. Don't dive right into account numbers. Talk about values, dreams, fears around money, and critically, be vulnerable first. Admit your own financial mistakes or worries.
Lead by example.
Yes. And be completely non-judgmental. The initial goal isn't to fix anything. It's just to normalize the conversation, make it safe to talk about money openly, and eventually start aligning on shared goals. What kind of life do we want to build together?
And thinking longer term, marriage itself has huge financial implications.
Marriage is a legal contract, first and foremost, with massive financial consequences if it dissolves. For people with significant assets coming into the marriage or entrepreneurs with businesses, planning for the worst-case scenario is just pragmatic, even if it feels unromantic.
Which means considering a prenup.
Considering a prenuptial agreement, yeah. These conversations are incredibly difficult, no doubt. They can take months of careful, sensitive, emotional negotiation. But hashing out the financial framework while you're both at your best, in love and collaborating, is infinitely better than fighting it out through lawyers if things go wrong later. It protects both parties.
And what about just day-to-day arguments about spending? They happen.
They absolutely happen. The key tactic the sources recommend is to elevate the argument away from personal attacks or judgment.
So don't say.
Don't say, you spend way too much money on shoes, or why did you buy that expensive gadget? That immediately puts your partner on the defensive. It becomes about their character.
Instead, you should.
You should try to refocus the conversation back onto the conscious spending plan that you hopefully created together. Ask questions like, hey, I saw this charge. Is this purchase part of the plan we agreed on for our guilt-free spending this month? Or how does this fit into our shared savings goals?
So you make the plan the objective third party, not your personal judgment.
Exactly. The plan becomes the neutral territory. It's not me versus you. It's us versus the plan we both agreed to. It depersonalizes the conflict and keeps the focus on shared goals. Hashtag outro.
Wow, okay. We have covered a ton of ground, from the deep psychology of money scripts to the nitty-gritty tactics of credit cards, index funds, and even negotiating house prices. So boiling it all down, what's the single most important takeaway for someone listening today?
If you distill this entire philosophy, it really comes down to two core pillars, two main actions. First, automation.
Set it and forget it.
Absolutely. Set up the system once, get the right accounts, automate your bill payments in full, automate your transfers into your investment accounts, and then let it run itself in the background. Your financial progress must happen by default. Relying on willpower alone eventually fails. Automation is the key.
Okay, automation is pillar one. Pillar two.
Pillar two is ignore the noise and live outside the spreadsheet.
Meaning,
Stop consuming the endless financial media hype. Stop chasing complicated investment fads like crypto or NFTs unless you truly understand them and are using fun money. Stop the temptation to log into your investment accounts every day and obsessively track market fluctuations.
because good investing should be boring.
Good investing is boring. It should be methodical, calm, long-term, and frankly, about as exciting as watching paint dry. That's how you know you're doing it right. Get the automated system running, then go live your life.
And once that system is running, how much ongoing effort is really required?
Honestly, minimal. The sources suggest maybe a few hours once a year. That's it.
Just once a year. To do what?
Pick a date, maybe sometime in December. Sit down for an hour or two. Reevaluate your subscriptions. Are you still using them all? Call your credit card, cable, insurance companies, and politely ask for lower rates or retention offers. It often works. Glance at your investment asset allocation. Does it need a slight rebalance back to your target? That's pretty much it.
So a couple of hours a year for potentially thousands in savings or optimized returns.
The rewards for that tiny bit of annual maintenance are phenomenal compared to the effort.
So really, the most important part of getting rich, or at least financially secure,
Is simply getting started, overcoming that initial inertia, setting up the 85% solution now, and then letting the incredible, unstoppable power of time and compounding do the heavy lifting for you.
the total effort required, especially after setup, is surprisingly small.
Minimal effort. But the reward is potentially life-changing. It's a life where money isn't this constant source of stress and anxiety, but instead becomes a tool. A tool that serves you, helps you build the life you want, rather than being a tyrannical master holding you hostage to fear and guilt.
Okay, final thought for everyone listening.
Think about this right now. What is the absolute smallest specific step you can take today, like right after listening to this, to automate or optimize just one financial win?
Could be tiny.
Could be tiny. Maybe it's finally opening that high-yield savings account you've been putting off. Maybe it's setting up an automatic $50 extra payment towards your student loan or credit card. Maybe it's just logging into your 401k and bumping your contribution up by 1% to make sure you're getting the full match.
Just one small action.
Just one small action. Get started now. Let your future self thank you later.